Christ. The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Oh my God, it's like the fucking Hollywood Squares. All right.
I'll take things that are strange for 400, Vanna.
All right, hold on a second. First of all, I'm going to put this out because I'm going to remove this because it's right over Don's face.
Yeah, it's right on my face. Why do I even bother wearing the mask?
You want to join in? For the fun, you can call us at JimandKnight.com/call. Go right there. It's right. It's down there. But I'm going to take that out. There we go. What? Hold it. Who is this?
I mean, the debate was in Miami, right?
Yeah, that's right. Are you playing?
Want to learn to hustle?
Who's playing the music?
Sorry. I was just in the Cabana mood after that.
That's okay. Hello, Tim.
Hi. My brain is dead because I just spent 2 hours in the
well, I did too. So you guys tell me. My first reaction is this one wasn't as bad as the last one.
Right. Amen.
It wasn't.
Wait for.
I know people are actually like talking about shit. It's like actually kind of amazing. And I hate to say it, but you maybe have to give some credit to NBC News for keeping the thing under control too. They did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was so much NBC as it was just the people that were there. I think, Ramaswamy, I think, kind of learned his lesson a little bit. But having said that, I only saw the second hour.
Okay.
I didn't see the
Don,
first
I got to
hour.
ask you, did any of you guys catch this at the very, very end? Vivek shook hands with everybody except Haley. Did you guys catch that?
No, I was too busy getting ready for the show.
Yeah. See, I set up ahead of time. I just walked in here, played the intro. There you go. It's like it's simple, man. I got it down.
I noticed that throughout what I thought was interesting is throughout the whole evening, anytime that Ramaswamy could butt in and make allegations against Haley, he did. And I just thought it was interesting that he found picking on her throughout the night. That said to me that I think he fears her more than the rest of those people.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too. I couldn't figure out the end game on that because, I mean, she's not ahead. I mean, even taking Trump out, I mean, DeSantis is still in the lead. So I don't know.
Yeah, he may be in the lead, but Nikki, I mean, look, for what she is, for who she is, she made a good showing. Look, I've written Tim Scott off. I cannot abide this incredible whispering when he wants to make a point. Does it remind you of anybody? It reminds me of two people in particular, both Obama and Biden. So I just. The guy may be very intentioned, but I'm really done with him.
Don, I never thought of that. That's really interesting. Jeff, did that ever occur to you? That Tim Scott was kind of like the Obama and Biden?
Well, the crowd was really quiet whenever he spoke.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to hear him too. I mean,
or they were asleep.
Why they were so passive.
By the way, I have headphones on. Not now. I mean, when I watch the debate, because my wife's in the other room, so I have headphones for my TV. I don't know.
I have also been banished, by the way.
Have you too?
Yes. Mrs. Zorro said, "You're going to the den, right?" I said, "Sí, señora. We don't mean to offend."
Do you have the headphones, Don? I've had these for 25 years. It's like it saved my marriage.
I've got them.
Well, anyway, I had the headphones on. I don't that they were in a concert hall there in Miami, and the sound was terrible. I don't know if you guys heard it, you could tell, but
Yeah,
it
I heard the
echoes. And it's like the
Yeah.
miking was bad, and it's like, oh Jesus, it's kind of surprising me from NBC, especially
Well, it's probably set up for a rock band.
Yeah. And then the whole visually, the production was so freaking huge. It was like I think it was somebody's birthday or something. Okay, I'll throw this out. Most improved, Chris Christie for sure.
Yeah, I was most impressed by Christie. His statement for a debate, he was prepared. He had cogent statements, and he was actually as close as any politician can come to answering a direct question. He was doing that. So his performance overall was really good. He's not an inspiring kind of guy, but as a potential leader, he spoke, I thought, more clearly.
He also didn't spend a lot of time bashing Trump this time either.
No, he stayed away from that. He talked more about himself, which I think all of them should do. The leading question, very first question is, what about Trump? Well, if Trump isn't going to show up for the fucking thing, don't even mention him.
Yeah.
Why bring him into the deal? Yeah, he's out there and he's got he's higher in the polls, but what do you think about this other guy who's not here? Screw that. Get on with some topics.
Right. Absolutely. I also think it was what I saw, the last hour that I saw. I think it was calmer just because there were fewer people up there. That's number one. Number two, they learned a few lessons. I asked Mrs. Zorro what their Ramaswamy embarrassed himself, and she said,
"Yeah,
he did."
Don, just a second. So you mean you got banished to the den, but she still watched it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my
She
God!
Said, when you take that outfit off, you can come and join the rest of the
Okay, all righty.
I mean, now I know what the trans people feel like.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you could be trans Zorro. Swish.
Swish.
Anyway, so I'm sorry. What were you saying? I just got totally wrapped up in that. Don?
What was
what were you talking? What was the point you were trying to make? I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No. I just like I say, fewer people and just lessons learned from the last time. I just don't know. I didn't hear Ramaswamy, but for me, he's just not a factor in any of this. Tim Scott is not a factor. The only ones who I think, not because they have a chance, but because they probably are the most interesting, would be DeSantis and Chris Christie and Nikki Haley. Now, I'll say that I thought that Nikki Haley didn't waste time beating around the bush with questions. She just went straight. In fact, the three of those, they all answered their questions very directly. I don't think they were into wasting time. I think they all know that they kind of embarrassed themselves last time. All of them.
Yeah.
All of them. All of them.
Well, okay.
So I think they just grew up.
Jeff, let me run this by you. Do you think Vivek knows he embarrassed himself last time? Because when I got out of this, and this is what I want to run by you, he's this very smart man, but not a lot of wisdom. That's why I don't know how you define that, but
right. Yeah, maybe his youth. I think I gave him the win because he took the first shot at Ronna McDaniels right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And he called out NBC for
right.
Just the bullshit coverage they give. And he called Nikki Haley, Dick Cheney, and 3-inch heels. That's a fucking brilliant line.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to call a spade a spade. So for me, he was the least polished politician up there. To me, I agree that the dynamics of this debate was different. I mean, you didn't have that bookend with the bad knee that Bergrum. He was he was gone, which was
Yeah.
good. He was a piece of shit, just a rich guy that bought his way to the first class. Big deal. But I think it was really noticeable, but that Pence, who's a phony Christian, hides behind the cross all the time, and everyone has to kind of hold their tongue around him. I think him being gone opened up the others to be. I mean, the air of the whole thing was completely different, and to me, so Doug didn't count when he was there, didn't really count when he wasn't there. But I think Pence being gone, to me, was a real dynamic change. That here, you've got a former vice president, blah blah blah. He's out of it, and I agree with Don Zorro that Tim Scott. I don't have any notes that he made anything, memorable out of it.
That's a very good observation about Pence. That never even occurred to me. But you might be onto something there about the fact that his lack of presence actually changed it.
Yeah, there was. I think they all. Again, I'm agreeing with the panel. They all learned from the first one, and I think they each had stayed in their own lane. It was interesting to me that Nikki Haley constantly would say, well, Ron, or, was always addressing her answers against DeSantis because they're the closest. I mean, that was, I think, one of the cards she consistently played. I love that. I think Christie had the best answer on TikTok. Mm-hmm. And then they ran 3 ads for TikTok.
Yes.
Yeah. I thought that is NBC, you pukes.
God. Perfect. And I hate it. I mean, I was just going on last night about TikTok. The other thing I was going on last night, but now I have to think of why I brought this up. I said, I feel that Ronna McDaniel's incompetent. I mean,
100%. She lost yesterday.
That's right. They're running a shit show, and if they don't fix this really fucking quick, they're going to lose next year too.
There was another aspect to the debate that I found interesting, and this was towards the end. Maybe I don't know if it happened throughout, but what I noticed in the last half hour is there was more of I agree with so and so, and yes, I what so and so said. There was more of that kind of acknowledgement that one of their opponents might have had some good points. So that was a completely different aspect to this than the last debate.
Yeah,
well, for people that
go ahead.
Sorry,
Tim.
Go
ahead, Jeff.
I think for a future drinking game for the youth that maybe catch this on the replay is they should replay this 2-hour debate, and every time someone says thank you, oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I mean, it was like there was just this constant, it was like a fake that the way NBC was trying to control it, like Hugh Hewitt would say, oh, well, thank you. And then they'd say, thank you.
I'm drunk out of my mind in 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah, you're shit-faced. You're not getting through to the first commercial break, and you're like, we're out of booze. No. We've all pissed ourselves.
Oh, my God.
That's one of my big complaints about TV news people is after every segment that, somebody out in the field does, they say, thank you for that, Ron. As if Ron isn't getting paid to do that as part of the show. It's like, he stood out in the middle of a street someplace and got a camera guy to stand in front of him, and they piped the signal into the studio just as a kindness to, thank you. I thought these people must get the questions ahead of time. I don't know if that's the case. If that's the stated fact, but I believe that that's what it is, so that they would have something to say. In Tim Scott's case, he kept saying the same 3 things over and over again. His answer to everything was the same 3 things. But the questions were kind of stupid as well, besides the Trump question. The Hugh Hewitt guy that nobody's ever heard of or cares about kept asking, what would you do on the first day? Well, you're not going to get anything done on the first day.
No, I know. That bothers me.
What are you going to do on the first day that ends this problem that's been building up for like 4 years or 6 years or whatever. It's like, and nobody said, Hugh, it doesn't work that way. They also, but what would you do on the first day? Well, on the first day, you're going to get like 100 phone calls from people around the world congratulating you, to which you say, you better get your shit in line, whatever fucking country you are, because we're not playing anymore.
Yeah.
Well, there's sheriff in town.
Yeah.
This is really what you're doing on the first day. You're going to go to the inaugural ball. You're going to get completely blitzed. Then you're going to go home and ram the crap out of the first lady for hours, and you're going to wake up at 11 a.m. with a hangover. That's what's going to happen.
Now, if you're Ron DeSantis, that's actually a very good idea. I don't know if you've taken a good look at Mrs. DeSantis.
Oh yeah, that's true. By the way, speaking of that, Tim, did you catch this? That at one point, Christie said, "This is what I'm going to do in the first week," and I thought, well, at least he's being realistic.
Well, yeah, and you get these things started.
Then again, wait a minute, Tim. That you have to remember, what did Biden manage to do in one day? I mean, this guy freaking destroyed
it's a story
most of the country.
Lady.
So, I mean,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's you can go in and write a bunch of executive orders, or you can go in and tear up a bunch of executive orders. These guys are all going to tear stuff up and throw it out and start some other kind of thing.
Tim, who used that line? Was that Tim Scott? I'm going to tear this up and throw it away, or was it DeSantis?
No, it's DeSantis.
DeSantis.
I think he said it like 3 times.
Yeah, and said it over and over again, but a couple of other people picked it up and said it. But there was a lot of repetitiveness, and I agree with Ron and I agree with so and so, because there wasn't much room to expand on any of these ideas. And some of these things were, instead of like policy questions, they were these, Social Security. It was, would you raise the retirement age? Instead of, let's talk about Social Security, it's, would you raise that? Well, these people talked about Social Security, and then she kept saying, but would you raise the retirement age? Well, that's like one, tiny piece of a very giant, big puzzle. And again, nobody had any, they all said, well, you can't just pick an age right now. You have to look at a lot of details. But nobody had a real answer on Social Security, even when they were more expansive in talking about it. And again, conflicting things. The media person says, "Oh, it's gonna run out of money in 10 years." Well, I read a lot about this, and it's not going to run out of money in 10 years. That's a bogus claim that came out of politics someplace, and then the journalists don't bother to research it and find out the truth about it.
I think they were talking about climate change, weren't they?
Well, climate change is going to run out of Social Security money.
I think I figured out this whole thing. Hey, how you doing there, Jeff?
Good. How are you?
Wherever
the hell you are.
The Brady Bunch.
I'm just trying.
I guess the rules you sent out ahead of time, Peters. No one read them.
What was that? What?
The rules you sent out ahead of time, no one read them.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. No one reads anything.
Well, you know why I'm wearing the hat. This is just to keep Jim's balls from like.
Boing, 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 boing.
See, God.
I think, and again, I'm glad you clarified that, Tim. That DeSantis kept saying, "Tear up the papers." Now, one of his handlers should have said, "Why don't you throw in there, Mr. Stiff? I'm going to tear him up with the same piss and vinegar that Nancy Pelosi tore up that State of the Union speech at Trump's."
Yeah.
He's such a stiff bastard.
Well, you have a point there. He is not the most charismatic person on the planet. That's true.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why Ramaswamy fears Nikki Haley. She's very poised, and she's better to look at, but she's very poised. She gets right to the point. she's not only been, a governor, but she was also a UN ambassador. So she's had to deal in that diplomatic world a lot more. She's a lot more polished.
She's a lot more pragmatic, I'd say, too. I mean, she's had experience dealing with lots of different.
She's pregnant?
People. Huh? What?
She's pregnant?
No.
How the hell did that happen?
It was
Vivek.
It was
That's what he's mad about.
No wonder they were talking about the abortion question.
Yeah. And I think she gave the most.
Oh my
she and,
God.
She and Christie gave the most solid responses on the abortion thing. That it is a statewide issue. It's not a federal issue.
Right.
This idea of coming up with another federal law when the court has already said it's the Constitution. It doesn't include this as an area that the federal government can deal with, and
Yeah.
you have to look at the entire picture. Life after abortion or after not aborting. What are the resources there? Provide more choices for that infant than they have now. So I think Christie and Haley were, I think, the smartest people in the group. Ron DeSantis is all gung ho. He's going to, get out there and kick ass on this
And
thing.
take names, right?
Yeah, and
Tear
that's,
things up.
yeah, and that's not the job either. Now I forget which one said something about breaking down the federal. Well, a couple of them. Ramaswamy was one who said you got to get rid of all these excess federal departments, and you've got to, bring down decrease the cost of the federal government, and that was in response to the economy. To make things work better, the government has to work better. And I liked his zero budget idea. It doesn't matter what they got the last time. You start from scratch and take a look at what do we need right now. And Nikki Haley was the one who talked about modernizing the military, which is, to me, it's a big point. The military costs us a lot of money, and we definitely need it. But the world that we are going to fight in the next time we do fight, it's not going to be people lining up on each side. This thing in Ukraine is, a tired old Russian Politburo guy trying to fight a war like they did in World War II, their last big deal. Before the Soviet Union rolled into all these countries with their tanks and said we're in charge, and everybody had to bow down because they had no recourse. This time they rolled into a place and got into a big fight, and it's dragged into, the Soviet Union versus Ukraine should have been over in 6 months, but it is dragged down into this shit pile that it is now.
I'm just surprised that this only got brought up in passing about the fact that Zelensky said yesterday or the day before, let's just can the next elections, It's like, what the fuck? I mean,
yeah.
Well,
that's Ramaswamy made his big thing was that Ukraine is not a democratic country. It's a corrupt country. They got rid of, all these other parties. There's just one party. They got rid of all the television networks and made it one state-owned network. It is an autocracy under the reign of the actor there, and we're not really defending democracy in that country.
No,
we're fighting Russia, and some of these other people said it. We have to degrade the Russian military by continuing this thing in Ukraine, which burns up a lot of Russian resources.
I've always wondered whether our getting into Ukraine is just guilt for the past, for the sins of Walter Duranty and the New York Times, and not
that's an interesting theory, man.
Not being able to help those folks when it actually counted. But of course, that was during the Cold War, and for us to have gotten in to something really would have really would have meant something. It probably would have been a nuclear war at that point. And so this is kind of like a secondhand way of saying, well, Ukraine, we really do care about you. So let's throw and we've got a Democrat in the White House, and those people love throwing money at stuff. So we're going to throw a bunch of money your way. And then all of a sudden you find yourself with an ally that really does need help, and you're fighting things on two fronts. But leave it to today's world where you could have this war where everybody's got signs on their lawns and all this stuff, and the next thing you know, Ukraine, wait, are we still there? We have to deal with Israel right now. I forgot that we were in Ukraine. Yeah, the world is a very funny place, I got to tell you.
The world has short memories too.
Yeah,
and I think the interesting thing, Zelensky today is saying, just give us some money, we'll pay you back. Send it to us as a loan.
Right.
So he's feeling his balls are in the vice.
Yeah.
He's feeling that squeeze.
Yeah.
And it's interesting watching the national news now. They were so much about this Hamas, these students and stuff. And I think Vivek had the right answer there. You don't squash the free speech. Go to the administration and say, what are you teaching at this college? Because he said that's a slippery slope. And he gave some really good examples.
But this is where the alumni come in. Right?
Yeah.
I think we talked about this last time. This is where the alumni come in. The federal government doesn't have to do anything. This is all about the alumni and what they're willing to support with their money. If the alumni decide to play with the way that they always do and just do kind of the stupid blind thing, okay, well then that's the way it's going to be. But I've been thinking about you all week because we talked about the Zoroisms, and man, the Zoroisms are flying furious right now with all the chinks in the armor have turned into just gigantic gapes in the Democrat thing. If the Republicans lose this one, if they lose this one in 2024, they will never win anything.
I agree.
They will never win anything.
I agree with you. It's like, if they can't beat this guy, they're useless.
Talk about a JV squad,
right?
Yeah. Well, one of the problems though is that the Republican Party is really, it's like shattered piece of glass. It's still in the frame, but a good strong wind, and it's going to cave in. And the Democrats should get to that point, because nobody in the Democratic Party wants Joe Biden to run. But Biden, I think, we know why he got what he got. He got the chance to run. He wasn't even in the picture until late because he's got shit on everybody. He was around over 37 years in the Senate, and he's a bully, and he will use whatever power he's got to get what he wants. We've seen that with the Burisma scandals and all this other stuff. So the Democratic Party, the party leadership is afraid, just like the McDaniel person. Those people are like over promoted secretaries. They're not leaders of these things, and so the Democratic Party should be ready to splinter over the next few months to make to open up a chance for other people to do it. I see the end of both of these big parties coming, and hopefully it's this time around.
But Jim, you can call Ronna McDaniel a secretary, but the fact is that job needs more than a secretary.
That's what I'm saying is, she's an over-promoted secretary. She's not somebody capable of leading this thing.
Right.
But she gets put there because she's not a threat to the other parties that want to have their say in how this thing runs.
Also, I think when it actually came to the voting, she makes all the rhinos feel really good. I don't know. I mean, there's still half the Republican Party is still on the dole. I mean, they still want to, they still want to collect their fair, quote unquote, fair share, which is terrible. So you got the Democrats are all corrupt and half the Republicans are corrupt. That's the way I look at it. I'm cynical.
And I'm glad you are.
Yeah, I know.
That was your cue, Jeff. He said fair share.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
Yeah, the Ronna McDaniel thing is interesting. I think it was Bannon today on a show this morning said Donald Trump saw what George Steinbrenner did. When a manager can't win the World Series and they lose, they're fired. And he's like, why? And that's why Ramaswamy, when he came out and said, Ronna, I'll give you my time if you want to walk out here and resign because of what happened at this yesterday at the
I missed that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, it was a beautiful line by him because someone had to call her out.
Yeah.
The other thing is how the Republican Party for my whole life has said they're pro-life. But they don't have any, here's our mission statement for that. It's we got to get rid of Roe versus Wade. Well, that's gone. So what was okay?
Now what?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what's happening for Republican voters is there's no trust. They've given us John McCain, who didn't want to beat the black guy. Romney, who was an asshole, an arrogant asshole.
Right.
Bob Dole, a one-armed bandit. And again, God bless you for your service. But I mean, how can that can't perpetuate? And Tim's right. These things are going to implode right in front of people's eyes.
Yeah.
They're just going to go down.
Yeah. Well, what happens if they both go down at the same time? Then what happens?
That's good. That's
Tim
good.
Conaway. Tim Conaway wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Conaway
right. Tim Conaway wins. Yes. Yeah, those of you who are watching this, Mr. Conaway is running for president. So
yeah, and it gives a real opportunity for a strong third-party candidate to come in, and not just for the presidency, but across the board in all these congressional and Senate offices. Somebody who does believes in the country, believes in the Constitution. Wants to work for the people and not for the party. And that's the other part of it. I just had this conversation yesterday, which I didn't bring up. I try not to start political conversations when I'm out and about, particularly if I'm at a volunteer situation. But I heard people started right away with they only want to do what the party wants them to do, and they don't want to do what the people wants them to do. And, with the party. So people are starting to recognize that party politics, isn't being a Democratic voter doesn't mean you're part of the Democratic Party because you don't get the representation in the end.
Hey, Tim, do the people in your service organizations know you're running for president?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I quietly put the word out to the people, but I don't.
Is this the reason they want to talk to you about politics?
No, I don't. This was at some place where these were people in the larger organization, but we hadn't met before. And I'm not using social organizations as a platform for this. I don't feel that's appropriate. So I didn't even bring up my candidacy with these people. They started talking about it, and we discussed these things. But I thought this is not the appropriate place to do this. We're here
Don, do your friends know you work for an unnamed intelligence organization? Do they know that?
Not yet. Just wait until I retire.
And then you're going to write a book, right?
Then I'll write the damn book.
That's right.
I'll expose all of them.
Yeah, put their pictures in it.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Tim, I've been going on about this on the show for the last couple of days. So I got all my liberal friends, and I live in the heart of Minneapolis. So all I have is liberal friends, and they're always, they know, some of them know I do the show, and there's always like the thing about like, well, where do you get your information? Has it ever occurred to you that your information is wrong? It's like, oh, shut up. It's like, I read so much more news than these people. It's mind-boggling, and they're telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. It's like, and okay, sometimes I don't, but not compared to them. I mean, but the problem is, let me give you an example.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead now. What were you going to say?
No. Please give your example, because I want to follow
Here's
up
an
with
example. I got friends saying, why do Republicans want to ban books in school libraries? And right, you guys are gonna laugh. Have you seen the books? Banning books is wrong.
What's their answer?
What was that?
What's their answer? Have they read anything about?
No, they have not seen the books. All they know is banning books is wrong. They know that.
And wasn't it the left that banned Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, Tom Sawyer, because they didn't feel that these things. I mean, it is to laugh.
And we're banning
if one weren't crying.
Porn. It's porn.
The left wants to ban books that have the N word in them.
Right.
Even though it's contextually correct.
Yeah.
In the context of the book, and the left or the right wants to ban the books that. The passages that I have seen or heard about from the books that are in high school libraries, if I had got caught with a book that had that in it when I was in high school, that would have been the end of it.
Swish.
And John Kennedy tries to read these books in Congress, and they stop him. You can't say that here.
Right.
Well, but my 10-year-old kid is reading this, but it's like, and so I get that stuff. That's what I get. That's one example.
So what I was going to say though was that it's very interesting. I read in Fox the other day, since we're talking about alternate liberal news sources, all of a sudden Jewish people are going to Fox because it's the only place that they can see the images and the things that are going on. They're suddenly going, holy crap! There's a news outlet that's actually showing what is going on there. It's not being hidden. Speaking, like I said, of the Zoroisms, that there's another chink in the armor, So I'm telling you, they are just falling apart at the seams.
In the last month, Fox's ratings have gone up 42%, and they were already 42%. They were already beating the shit out of everybody already, and before that, their ratings have gone up 42%. Yeah.
And getting back to what Jim was saying, people's, where do you get your information? I don't get my information from the media. I don't watch stuff. I don't watch the news. I watch some of the local news to get the weather, and that's about
and
it.
Your hookers are constantly talking to you, right? They've got the
inside story. But if I want to know something, I do research on it, just like I've always done. And you go on the internet and you can find 6 different views of it. But if you're experienced at doing research, you can find the common thread where you get to the basic part of it, or the core of the topic, and you can build on that. But if you think you can get your news from a 30-second or a 90-second, or get your information from a 30-second or 90-second spot, I don't care which channel you're looking at, which network you're looking at, you're going to come away with shit.
Yeah. Well, you just can't do the news in 22 minutes. I mean, you just can't.
No. And the problem is the 24-hour news channels give you about 22 minutes worth of news over the course of the 24 hours.
That's true.
Same shit over and over again. No depth. Not really questioning anybody. Not confronting anybody when they make these statements. Confronting them with, no, this is the real information. don't give me your pat answers.
Jeff, I think
Yeah.
this is the part we do a commercial for Conk News, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you're looking for a culmination, aggregation of a bunch of conservative news stories and outlets, go to conk.com.
Yeah.
That's what we have there. And that reminds me of us, just the whole, when you're watching the news, I watch MSNBC every morning just because I love to watch the two. I mean, we have in Minneapolis, we have a local husband and wife that anchor the what WCCO is CBS
If
affiliate.
I'm right, they're the last local husband and wife team left in America. If I'm right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like to watch
My
Meek
goodness.
and Joe get their tension going so they can
Yeah. Hold it.
dressing room
So,
after.
I don't watch this that often, but I tune in every now and then, Jeff. Is it me? She's looking increasingly unhappy. Have you noticed
Yes.
that?
Yeah. No,
Like-
she's angry. Yeah.
Why? Is she angry at Joe? What's that? What's
You
that?
know,
She wants to be on this show.
Right.
That's right.
She wants to be in the center here.
She's frustrated.
Yeah, but I was watching it. This must have been last week when the GDP numbers come out. So they have this panel at like 4 times the size of this one,
Yeah.
and they're going through these economic numbers. Now the GDP went up because the government's been buying a lot of shit in our economy. So it's
Right.
a fake raise, right? And so they're going through all these panelists: Al Sharpton, Mike
he's a-
Barnacle, all these people that they don't have any economic background and they're overpaid. So the economy going to shit doesn't affect them,
No, it doesn't.
right? Then they go on to the story of the guy that had the gun that was a trained shooter that, again, our government knew he was nuts, still got to buy a gun. And so now they turn from economic experts to gun law experts.
That's right.
And it's like, I'm shamed to a small room in the house, just like you guys, because my significant other's like, we don't watch that here.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what are you doing out of bed? It's early. I mean, I thought you were in there resting. And so that's the thing on these news channels. It's like, how do these people go from one thing to another? And to Tim's case, they don't do any research.
No,
You know,
they don't. They're just
If it
talking.
isn't a gun, this guy would have showed up with a machete or drove an SUV through the front door.
Yeah.
He had a mission, and it was to accomplish death. He just had the convenience of a gun.
Right.
And so the
Nothing's
media,
going to stop him. If he doesn't have a gun, he'll find something else. Right.
you got it.
Yeah.
You got it. And he'll chain the doors and start the thing on fire. I mean,
Yeah.
we're
Right.
barbarians to the core if we're trying to get something done.
Yeah.
And so the gist of this media, that's going to implode along with these two political parties. I mean, they're going to burn down simultaneously. Be out of the blast zone is my only recommendation. And don't fear it. The people will still get up and go to work and go, oh, I guess the boss is going to just write me a check because it looks like the feds they went to hell.
Yeah.
So I'll just get my whole check and I'll send them my share that they think they need when I have time.
God bless
Voila.
you.
Well, and Jeff's point is, if we all, get up, go to work, do our thing, if we had a smart retirement system, and Jeff came up with a great idea on this, on how to, implement a required retirement investment, but, not to the government. I'm not going to go into all the details, but Jeff, you should listen to Jeff's version of it. I think it's a great way to over the long term replace Social Security and make sure that it's there. But if we all got up, we went to work every day, we took what we're paying in taxes and we put it into retirement, we bought individual medical insurance, life insurance with that money, and we spent the money in the economy. We could find out that we don't really need government oversight. All we need the government for is a military to take care of some international relations that it would be inappropriate for an individual state to set up, tariffs and, matters of international commerce. And that would be it. Federal government could be about 1/10 the size that it is and serve our needs. And instead of putting all that money into taxes, which employers are forced to donate to the government,
Yeah.
we could society would keep running with a tiny little federal government, and it would run better.
And Tim, last quarter, and I know Jeff knows this because him and I were talking about it on a previous show. Last quarter, 25% of all the people hired in the United States were hired by the federal government. 25%, quarter of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like they need more people. Shit.
Yeah.
They do not need more people. No.
Well, you got a whole middle management. I was talking to a longtime government employee who actually works. He has a job to do. Actually goes in and performs his duties. And he was. Did I just disconnect myself?
Nope.
No,
you're still
you're
here.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
You're fine.
I just can't see it anymore.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was saying that they've got all these middle managers who spend a lot of time telling them, about DIE and ESQ and all this other bullshit. But when he asked, how is this going to help me get my job done? We need stuff to get the job done. They don't have any answers. So that says to me, there's a whole big slice right in the middle of this pie that you can take right out, and things would actually work better as a result without these people in the middle wasting time.
If I had a half an hour, I think I would go on a very long screed about the beginnings of leftism in this country and the ramifications that they have had. And they have been so clever and so slow and so insidious and so good about the way that they infiltrated the schools, what they got rid of, what they decided, how suddenly social studies was more important than history, little things like that. I have said this, and I don't know if I've said this on the show before, that one of my plans, if I were to ever become president, for as much of a federalist as I am, I think the one thing that I would mandate is that every school, every high school in the country would have to have at least a semester of the kind of studies that would prepare people for adulthood. And this is very specifically talking about what you said, Tim, about being able to balance a freaking checkbook, understand how the stock market works, understand how to invest money so that you depend less on the government. But no, the leftists don't want that. And because the leftists are our teachers, they are our university professors and all that, no, this is no longer patriotism, the same thing. Everything that the leftists wanted us to laugh at when we were in college, everything that they diminished with their speech is the stuff that is currently biting us on the ass today.
John,
that is why everything is this is what George Orwell's quote. Okay, we've created a nation of pseudo intellectuals, and Orwell once said, there is nothing so absurd that an intellectual won't believe. And that's what we are now. We're a nation.
That's actually, and not only that, the latest surveys and polls I've seen actually seem to prove that. It's the intellectual class that gets sucked up in all this misinformation shit.
But this is the way it has always been. You understand that in this country, when socialism was first broached in the state of Indiana by people that were following thought of folks from England, these were all pseudo intellectuals. Every single time that the left has brought forth ideas like that, it's always been history calls them intellectuals. I call them pseudo intellectuals.
Yeah,
because that's truly what they are. It's just stuff on
and
the surface.
Most of them end up going off to teach college.
Well, but that's exactly the point,
right?
I mean, you think of the professors that I worked with, and back then I didn't know because I was swept up in all the garbage. But
well, you actually ended up killing him, right?
Well,
and also, Tim, we have to point out that while you were talking there, doing your long monologue, Don was trying to pinch your tits.
Well, and there's some nice ones too.
Hey, right there.
Yeah.
It's cordless. It's cordless.
It's cordless. It's company cordless. That's right.
Last week I was in Atlanta for a conference, and they had a get together after at a pub, and there were some people from down under, from Australia, and some of them had been transferred to work out of the UK. So there was some bloke there that was rambling on about climate change, and I'm like Conway. I'm just like, oh, can I get another Diet Coke? Can someone spill a drink on me and I can go back to the hotel room? Anyway, this person just would not give up the ghost. So he stated that for him to leave his burrow in his car, it's $15. I said, oh.
His burrow? Hold it. Are you
what?
So from his neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
From his neighborhood. If he takes his car, there's a camera that snaps a picture of the license plate, and he gets a bill for $15 because of the carbon emissions. Because everyone over there drives diesel vehicles. So I said, well, what do they nick you on the way back? He goes, $15. He says, so I use the public rail all the time, and electric cars are going to be the way. If you have an electric car, it's like $6.50. They still charge you. And I said,
God Almighty!
I said, wow, that's crazy. I said, that's the beauty of this country. You just run wherever you want. You get in that thing, and if you can get $5 worth of gas, you go as far as you can.
That's right.
And he's just so concerned about the climate. And I said, well, let me propose this to you. If someone had a power source that would not cause any global greenhouse gases or whatever stuff you think is going on, do you think that our governments, your government, whether it's the UK government, I said, and they own the grid, here at least we can buy shares of the grid owners and their independent companies. I said, or I don't know how it is in Australia. I said, but do you think they're going to give up and this is Conway hit on this, or Don Zorro did. There's these perfect tax plans that they've got in place.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, so do you understand? That's why solar and wind are the only two alternative energies that anyone talks about. He goes, well, they're the most efficient. I said, no. The power they generate goes over the copper line, which has the taxing ability to not change.
Yeah.
I said, that's the only reason. If you had a small nuclear reactor you could put in your burrow and you didn't need any other line other than just connecting it to the houses that it fed, they wouldn't like that because now you're independent.
Right.
Yeah, Jeff, were we talking about this on one of your shows?
Yeah, we talked about this a few weeks ago. And again, globally, I don't care what continent on this planet, the power comes across a line, aluminum line, I shouldn't say copper, they're aluminum. And that's the way they can keep the control of the taxation.
Yeah, because we were talking about this because was one of my other guests brought up the fact that they're these micro nuclear reactors,
Yep.
right, about the size of a pickup truck, and you'll be able to drive it anywhere you want, and they're going to be about $1 million, which is relatively cheap.
So most towns could afford it, and then
right.
control. That will never happen.
Yeah, because they can't tax it.
The government can't tax it universally. I mean, first of all, again, they have computers, but everything's on paper, right? We send in paper, right? So if Conaway is correct, we're very close to this whole thing just powdering out, and that will be one of the big grabs: is tear down these copper or aluminum power lines and get a localized power source, and you can bust up this global government handcuffs they have on everyone.
Well, you have distinct possibility if they make enough of these micronuclear reactors that might literally just force the issue. People just say, "Fuck you, we're going to use this." You know.
You got to make them, and you got to make enough of them. You got to make it affordable, and that's the whole thing with electric cars. Is the automobile industry and the oil industry knew that this was coming sometime. I mean, the discussion of electric cars has been around since the mid 70s, at least. I mean, as a reality, not as a futuristic concept. But until they've sucked all of the oil out of the ground and sold it to us, it's not going to happen. The board of directors, if you look at the board of directors at GM and Chrysler and Ford, you'll find those same names on the boards of Exxon and Standard and the other oil companies.
Yeah.
These, they have delayed this as long as they can, and they'll continue to delay it. And of course, the solutions that they're providing are not environmentally sound.
No.
The lithium, causes a lot of problems through the mining, and the generation of the electricity. And this is another case of the government working at the wrong end of the thing. We got to have electric cars by 2030. We got to have, and it's like, no, what we got to have is an electric grid that can handle all this. And that grid has to be, it doesn't have to be bigger. It has to be better, because the electric grid that we have is from basically the middle of the last century.
Right.
What we need. Yeah,
ahead,
what
Don.
we need is the ability to harness human flatulence. Now, hear me out on this.
Human what?
Human flatulence.
Okay. All right.
Farts, Jim.
Yeah.
Because there is no better way to stay warm at night than a good blanket and a hefty result of some good Mexican food. So you got your corn that you're going to harvest. The natural peppers and things that go into the salt.
You're talking about methane, right?
Absolutely. Everybody puts methane down. And Dorsoro has figured out a long, long time ago that the best way to stay warm at night is you tuck those covers in and just let go, baby. You stay warm until you go to sleep. You wake up in the middle of the night.
There's a reason our wives have all banished us to our little rooms.
It's just the idea came out to me when I heard Tim. Who was talking? That was Tim.
Yeah, Tim was talking.
Yeah, he's right next to you. Didn't you hear him?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, well, I mean, this is you have to meet absurdity with absurdity.
Yes,
I figured out that really is the only way, because if you try and argue logic against absurdity, I mean, in all seriousness, you look at this, the lunacy, the madness going on with the Hamas and Israel, the things that these college students are trying to justify through no not even a nominal acceptance of any kind of logic or what's in front of their eyes. It's just they're going, so fine, then let's play with those rules. Let's meet absurdity with absurdity. And the next time somebody comes up with one of these things, just throw something like that at them, and let's see how long at the very least you'll cut the conversation short. You won't have to worry about it anymore.
Right. If they say, let's unleash the intifada, say, I would rather see what smallpox does again.
I'd rather.
You know, I mean, shit. They're both risky.
I thought you were going to talk about unleashing the Antifarda.
Antifarda. Oh, Jeff, that was very nice. You covered your mouth even though.
Yeah, we're not even in the room with you, and you covered your cough.
We're not there. We're not there. We're not there with you. No.
You aren't?
No. No.
Let me. No, I'm not. You're right.
Oh my God, it's like it's a Zoom orgy. So I had David Strom on the show on Thursday. And he was saying, and this, I know I've been going. My wife's always telling me, you're just an old curmudgeon. You're complaining about these kids, But he brought up a really interesting point. Yeah, we, in the 70s, and we're all about the same age. We knew people that was protesting like the Vietnam War and stuff like that. Okay, fine, protest. But now these kids are actually, they're like pro-terrorism. They're for killing people. It's like a line got crossed here somewhere. I mean, it's not normal.
Yeah, well, and I think, and some of these candidates alluded to it. I think this is not just a group of students rising up saying this. I think there's instigation from the anti-Semitic world. It was not just Hamas, it's somebody else, but to come up and support people who cut the heads off babies and gang raped women and, killed grandmothers in front of their families and stuff. There's no logic in that, certainly. But somebody has instigated this, and I think, even planted some of these students. I was around in the early 70s when colleges were getting shut down with protests and National Guard coming on campus and all that kind of stuff. And at that time, people in government were claiming that there were communist instigators behind the kind of thing. I never met anybody who was in any of this stuff that was anything but the pseudo-intellectual that Don Soro was talking about.
Yeah.
But as you said, Jim, these were not, this was end the war in Vietnam. We need freedom. The gay movement had people were just starting to come out of the closet and saying it, that stop treating us poorly. The women's liberation movement was there. The women, shouldn't be kept in the homes and held to that kind of standard. These were issues of either freedom or perceived U.S. injustices or involvement in Vietnam was seen as, not within the scope of what the United States military should be doing. Now, you've got people defending terrorists, and Hamas is nothing but that. I mean, they're talking about the Palestinians. The Palestinians see, and we talked about this before. Oh, but the poor Palestinians, Hamas wouldn't be doing this if the Palestinians had their homeland. Nobody in the Middle East will give them any. They want to give the state of Israel to the Palestinians. None of these other countries will carve out a little section.
Yeah.
Syria and Saudi Arabia have plenty of desert.
Yeah. Would you guys forgive me? There's nothing funnier than Queers for Palestine.
No,
God. You try being queer in Palestine. Try that. They throw you off a building. It's like, really?
Did you see the clip of this Antifa guy who confronted this fellow who had a sign that said children can't decide for themselves about transfer? It was an anti-choice trans, child mutilation thing, and this Antifa guy got in his face. Well, there happened to be a couple of Muslim women there, and so this fellow appealed to the Muslim women. Look at what he's got there, and they said, "Yeah, he's right. Look at you with your damn black nail polish. Get the hell. What are you?"
Yeah,
I mean, this guy. You should have seen him. He was wearing a face mask from here down.
Yeah,
and you should have seen the look in his eyes when he realized, oh my God, they're not playing on my team.
No,
Right.
no.
Oh,
There
yeah.
are no queers for Palestine. That's just, that's like your
no queers in Palestine.
No, none that are advertising it.
Yeah.
No.
And that's the thing, Tim, when you talk about the Vietnam era, and this is why, to Don Zoro's point about if you're not learning the history, you just repeat it, and if you don't learn it at all, it happens really quick. So these same people that were saying to the Vietnam soldiers, "Get back here, you baby killers," now are the ones in Congress saying, we need abortion every day. So that baby killer, supposedly, that our military was funding, they've flipped that around to have the government fund the baby killers. And so that's why when you lose that history, it's...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the soldiers, the military took the blame in the Vietnam thing. They got a lot of crap. And the soldiers, I mean, I see these guys come, thank you for your service, all this kind of stuff. And I know guys coming home from Vietnam was spit on and called baby killers. There was the My Lai incident, but there's a great movie, and of course I can't think of the name of it now, Fire-Based Gloria, I think, a Siege at Fire-Based Gloria. But there's a scene in that where the soldiers, U.S. Marines, go into this village, and the village had committed the crime of accepting food and medical aid from U.S. soldiers, and all the men's heads had been cut off and put on stakes. All the women's naked bodies were piled up, and the assumption was they were raped. And then right in the middle of the village was a pile of dead babies. That wasn't done by the U.S. soldiers. But that story never came out. That we didn't get that from the media. We didn't get that from anybody over there. But the My Lai thing, you couldn't see enough of that one little naked kid running down. U.S. soldiers got the blame for that instead of U.S. government and the aluminum industry, because that's why we were in Vietnam. That area had the largest bauxite deposits in the world, and the bauxite is what aluminum is made from. So, we never get the straight story.
It's going to happen.
Things. Yeah, and now like you say, we've got. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It was bound to happen. Pussy showed up.
This is Henry right here.
Yeah. Henry wants some cameras.
I knew it was bound to happen. I guess I locked him in here.
Well, now talking about repeating the past. Afghanistan was the same stupid mistake.
Yeah.
Some of these other places, the United States military can kick the ass of anybody in the world. They talked about how China is going to have more ships than us, but can they operate them as well as us? And they're all powered by fossil fuel. They're not powered by nuclear power, so they're going to run out of gas someplace. The United States military can kick anybody's ass, but we go into these police actions where we've got our military there, but we're not allowed to shoot first.
No.
It was, one of the rules in Afghanistan. We're not allowed to do this. And all of your enemy combatants are dressed in civilian clothes. If we'd gone into Afghanistan and just kicked fucking ass from one end to the other, then we would have been done in about a year and a half or 2 years. And there wouldn't have been any Taliban after that. And everybody around there would have said, Jesus Christ, we don't want that to happen to us. Or maybe they wouldn't have said Jesus Christ. They might have said Allah, we don't want that to happen to us. But We don't do that. And that's part of this modern military thing is we don't camp a bunch of soldiers there
Yeah.
to go cover the same ground day after day and get picked off by guys.
I know we fight these
posts.
wars that we aren't allowed to win. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
we wonder why we don't win, and we don't. It's awful. Well,
Yeah,
guys,
and the big coin that still has to be played is we drove the Soviet Union into bankruptcy, and they want to play that card back to us either directly or through China, and they're a long way through the deck to be able to play that against us. I mean, Reagan faked them out with Star Wars, and they didn't have the intelligence to figure out we were just bluffing them. And so they're coming at us straightforward through Zelensky and whatever other things. They know we're on the ropes for going broke. And so, again, if we forget our history, what we did to others, they're going to come back and try to do it to us if we're not paying attention.
Jeff, I was just talking about this last night. No, go ahead, Don. Go ahead.
No, I have a point about knowing your history. There were these 3 nuns that died at the same time.
Yeah.
And, one was a really great nun. The other one was so. The other one, not so great. So they get up to Heaven's Gate, and they meet up with St. Peter, and they say, well, look, ladies, all you have to do is answer one question each, and you get to go into heaven. And so he goes to the first nun, who was, a good nun. He says, Sister Anne and Margaret, why don't to tell me who was the first man? And she goes, well, Adam. Da 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 da. When she walks in the gate, so he goes to the second nun, and she's not so good. She said, okay, so who was the first pope? And she says, well, St. Peter, you were the first pope. Da 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 da. It goes in. Now the third nun, he goes, okay, I got to give her a really good question. So he says, okay, what was the first thing that Eve said to Adam? And she goes, wow, that's really hard. Da 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 da.
There's your history lesson, folks.
That's right. Why it's important to know your history.
Know your history. All right, I tell you what. With that, let's end it. That's better than what I had.
The lightning strikes.
Yes.
So, exactly. Jeffrey, you're coming on next Wednesday?
I shall be here.
Tuesday is going to be our 50th show, and I think I have a really, really special guest lined up, but he hasn't absolutely confirmed, so I'm not going to announce it yet. But yeah, so
Bastard.
50 shows on Tuesday, and then Monday I'm probably just going to babble like an idiot. So, and no show tomorrow. I'm going out of town for a funeral, so we're off on that. So, guys, thank you. Can't thank you enough. Jeffrey Meyer, Tim Conaway, Don Zorro. Yeah. And Don does win the award for the best costume outfit, I think.
I worked on my makeup all day.
Yeah, I was going to say costume, but it's not a costume. It's not.
That's right. These are work clothes.
Yeah, I know that.
I have to go save some lives. Is it midnight yet?
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to go out and kill somebody, right?
I have to wait till the moon is full.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
We meet again.
Yeah, we will do it again. Yeah, we will do it again. We will. So hold on. I'm gonna play the bumper thing. Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. Bye bye, everybody. We'll see you on Monday. Take care.